I'm going to tell it straight, like someone sitting across from you with a cup of coffee, looking you right in the eye and saying, "Let me tell you what happened." I was 19 when the call came, but to really understand it, you have to go back 20 years earlier, back to a garden strung with lanterns on a chilly fall night. That's where my parents met two strangers who felt like they'd known each other forever. My dad, let's call him Aaron Miles, was the heir to a chain of luxury hotels but hated the plastic conversations. My mom, Rosa Kane, was a broke but brilliant art teacher who'd been dragged to the gala by a friend. He saw her in a green dress. She saw him looking at her like she was the only real thing in a room full of fakes. They danced under the trees with no music, whispered crazy promises about a life together, and for a while it was perfect. They built a little life, got married, dreamed about a baby. But money and power don't just bring privilege, they bring snakes. My dad's best friend and business partner, Derek Foster, always wanted what Aaron had. He had access to his phone, his calendar, every part of his life. And one night, when my mom was 7 months pregnant, a text popped up on Dad's phone from some glamorous woman talking about how incredible last night was, how she'd been patient but couldn't wait forever for him to leave his wife. My mom's world cracked right then. She confronted him. He swore up and down it wasn't true. She held up the phone and said, "Don't make it worse by lying to me." He begged. She left. A month later, she had me alone, naming me Claire Miles, and swore she'd never let my dad near her heart again. He got supervised visits for a while, but the marriage was dead, and eventually the visits stopped too. He built an empire and lived alone. She built a business planning weddings, and never got married again. Fast forward 19 years. That's me, the kid who grew up watching two people orbit each other like planets that had collided and then flung apart. I was pre-med running 5 miles at dawn, volunteering at the Children's Hospital on weekends. Everyone thought I was unstoppable. Until the day I passed out in class, woke up under fluorescent lights with an IV in my arm, and heard the words, "No one wants to hear leukemia." The doctor, a straight-talking woman named Dr. Pierce, told my mom we needed a bone marrow transplant. "Best bet is a parent," she said, calm as a metronome. My mom nodded without hesitation, but the doctor said, "We'll need to test both parents." My mom's hand trembled on her phone that night. She hadn't called my dad in years, but she did it. I wasn't there for the call, but I've replayed it in my head 1,000 times, a phone ringing in a glass tower, a man picking up and hearing the voice he's tried not to think about for 2 decades. "Aaron." She says it's Rosa. It's about Claire. It's serious. And without a pause, he says, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. They met again in a hospital corridor. My mom in a wrinkled blazer, eyes red from crying. My dad, silver at the temples, now wearing a suit like armor but moving like a man in a storm. He didn't even flinch when the doctor explained the process, months of injections, surgery, recovery. He just said, "Whatever she needs." Sitting there, I realized I'd never seen them in the same room together. It felt like watching 2 magnets pull against an invisible field, so much force, but all this history between them. And still the look they both gave me was the same. We're here. We're not leaving. A week into the hospital stay, Dr. Pierce sent us to family counseling. I think she knew that saving my body was only half the battle. My heart had been hungry for a family since before I could talk. The counselor, Dr. Hartwell, sat us down in this quiet little room overlooking a garden. "Tell me," she said, "how you got here." My mom said nothing. My dad stared at his hands. I finally said, "Look, I'm 19. I have cancer and I'm tired of pretending. What happened between you two? Why did you break?" The room went so still, I could hear my heart monitor beeping in the next room. My mom whispered, "Your father had an affair. I saw the message." My dad looked at me, his face like he'd aged 10 years in one breath, and said I didn't. I never touched another woman. I asked to see the screenshot. She handed me her phone. And because I'm of a different generation, the first thing I did was check the metadata. The timestamp was off. The area code didn't line up. "Mom," I said slowly, "this text was sent from New York, not Chicago. And look at the time zone offset, someone messed with it. They made it look like it came from him." We stared at each other. I could see the wheels turning in both their heads. My dad whispered Derek, my partner. He had access to everything. My mom's mouth fell open. 20 years of pain rearranged itself into a new shape. They both went quiet like the room had lost its air. Then what do we do? My mom asked. We can't prove it now. I said, we focus on me. We don't let him steal one more moment of our lives. And something shifted right then. They looked at each other, not like strangers this time, but like survivors of the same shipwreck. The next months were brutal. The shots to boost my dad's bone marrow made him ache and sweat, but he never missed a dose. He sat by my bed during chemo, bringing me ice chips and bad jokes. My mom ran her business remotely, sleeping in a chair next to me when I was too sick to move. Slowly, the old anger started to burn off like morning fog. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and see them talking in low voices, sometimes laughing about something small from the past. One night in that same quiet garden where the hospital kept its meditation path, I saw them sitting on a bench, shoulders touching, but not holding hands. My dad said softly, I'm sorry I couldn't prove the truth. My mom whispered, I'm sorry I believed a lie. I stayed hidden behind a tree, letting them have that moment. The transplant worked. My counts climbed. My hair started to grow back and the color returned to my cheeks. But something else was coming back too, the version of my parents who once danced under lanterns. 6 months later, I was in remission, and they were planning a small ceremony. Not a flashy wedding, just a renewal of vows in a garden lit with strings of bulbs the same way it had started. On the day of the ceremony, my mom wore a simple cream dress. My dad wore no tie, just an open collar like he could finally breathe. They walked in from opposite ends of the path and met under the trees. Their vows were nothing fancy, no, till death do us part speeches. Just my dad saying, I choose you now with full knowledge of what love costs, and my mom saying, I kept your ring on a chain for 20 years. I'm ready to wear it again. Everyone cried, including me, the kid who'd nearly died while bringing them back together. When they kissed, it wasn't like a movie. It was quieter than that. It felt like two people stepping back into their own skin. And yet, even with that happy ending, there's a shadow. We never confronted Derek. We can't prove what he did. He's out there somewhere, probably congratulating himself for getting away with it. But we're done letting him live in our heads. We took back our story, our time, our family. I'm telling you all this, not because it's some fairy tale, but because it's real. Sometimes love gets lost. Sometimes pride and manipulation win for a while. But sometimes, if you're lucky, life hands you a second chance in the ugliest possible way, like a diagnosis that could kill you, and you get to decide who you really are. So now it's your turn. You've heard my story of betrayal and healing, of a father who ran without hesitation, of a mother who faced her worst nightmare to save her child, of a kid who forced two adults to tell the truth. What do you think? Was my mom right to leave back then? Should she have trusted her gut? Have you ever seen jealousy or manipulation tear a family apart? Drop a comment and tell me where you stand on forgiveness, on trust, on whether people can really change. Because the truth is, this isn't just my story. This is a mirror. And somewhere out there, someone might be one phone call away from finding out who they really are and who still loves them enough to run.